Hey, what's going on, y'all? My name is Nelly J, and we got Randy Holcomb in the building, your host of Good Rookies. Guys, we're so excited to be back talking with y'all. Yes, raise your eyebrows, Mr. Holcomb.
I'm
You know
sorry.
what I'm saying? It's all good, man. It's all good. For those who don't know, we're so excited to talk about, some really hot topics in sports and culture. Okay, so Randy, for our first topic of the day, okay? I'm curious to know your thoughts on something that I actually stumbled upon. Big up to X, I call it Twitters forever. I saw an interesting article by Front Office Sports, right? The CEO, Eric Reesener, made a statement, and it kind of derived from the fact that, as you know, you actually predicted Florida's basketball team to win the national championship, right? Yes, guys, Randy did win the pick'em.
Well,
Actually,
you
no.
know that.
Did you win the pick'em or were you second? Or was it Ivory?
I think Ivory might have
Ivory won it, right?
I think I finished second, yeah.
Okay. Well, better than last year. Shots fired. So, but you did predict Florida. You've been a big fan of that team, the size, the length, the age, right? Older
Right.
teams tend to win March Madness, which makes sense.
Right.
But they won, or they earned $1 million, right, from that title. Now, the CEO, Eric Reesener from Front Office Sports, said the richest teams right now in men's basketball had about a 6 million roster. 6 million rosters, y'all, okay, for NIL. So, but he mentioned a statement about that will no longer be a big number.
No, it won't.
So please walk us through those like myself who aren't really tapped into the NIL landscape. Why isn't 6 million enough anymore?
So what has happened in essence is that we have a salary cap now in college sports, right? So that number is $20.5 million. Most of that advocated to football and basketball. So there's going to be a basically for the revenue sports, that money's going to go towards them. So $6 million is not going to be a heck of a lot of money anymore because of NIL. Now, NIL will change in a lot of different ways, right? So you have that. Now we have the idea of the school being able to pay the student athlete no different than somebody working at like the student library or something like that, or the gift shop or whatever the case may be. They'll be able to pay them now through the school, and then NIL will be separate from that. So we won't have a collective anymore. What we will have in essence is the school just writing them or depositing a check for them as though they work for the school, which protects the school, protects the player, and keeps everything above board, because some of this NIL stuff was just kind of like running rampant. Like it was just like the wild, wild west out here with money flying all over the place. Guys taking money and not even showing up at school or coming to school and not being good. And the school still having to pay the kids. Now what we have is a collective that President Trump just signed off on not too long ago that will allow the school to pay the kids, and then the kid will go out and be able to be part of the NIL world where he or she can find her own deals. Which was actually what the NIL was intended to be.
Well, that's interesting. So, okay, so the fact that schools can write checks is crazy, and the 20 million cap, that's just NIL. So the cap is 20.5 million, and the school can write you a check for money.
Well, it's not going to be NIL anymore. It's just going to be
like
a salary cap. Right. It's just going to be a salary cap, and NIL will be its own thing. People were getting that money mixed up like with true NIL. It's not true NIL. It was a collective that was set up in most situations, a 501c3. The money was put there and then dispersed through somebody outside of the school. But the school was still basically, or the coaches were saying, hey, this guy needs this much money. And then the collective would just disperse the money to the player. That is no more. Well, it's going to stop here pretty soon. What will have happen is that the schools will just operate with a salary cap per the sport. And those two sports are going to be football and basketball.
So, people like to talk about monopoly, right? Monopoly, protect the monopoly and all that stuff.
Right.
With this in play, let's be real. A lot of schools don't have 20 million to even give to a team today, right? And the ROI is not there for some schools based on just like location, reach, fans, economically be able to raise that money. But some schools, as we know, have huge basketball, football programs that can probably even surpass hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue because
Right.
of, the actual location where they are, right? We saw, your boy Deion Sanders help like reignite a whole city in
Right. Right.
Colorado
Right. Right.
and the HBCU, right? Jackson State. Like he was able to bring a lot of revenue just based on his name and, just the team's success at the time or what you deem success, right? For that expectation. So if you are a coach going into men's basketball, right, and someone's offering you a job, right, what are some things that person needs to add to? Because I'm wondering, I'm like, yo, if it's 20 million, I'm competing in national championships, or I want to, or I'm asked to do so, right? I'm assuming if you're asking me to compete in a championship, you got to at least give me like 10 mil to give my players or to help me recruit the top talent around the world to play at the school, right? Like, am I tripping or?
Well, I think it's less about the money. I think that
Hmm.
there's not every school's not going to be able to
Exactly.
spend that amount of money, but most of these schools won't, even if they had the money, won't be able to spend it on the players, right? Because there's not that many players that can actually help you win. I was having the same discussion earlier today. There isn't enough players to go around. There's 400 Division I schools, so there isn't enough players to go around. If everybody had $20 million to spend, you can spend $20 million, but you ain't gonna win nothing because there ain't enough kids out there to help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so there's only, I mean, if you think about football.
Unless kids actually like stayed in college more. We spoke about how we want our basketball players, like Carmelo Anthony spoke about his son. They want some people want their kids to become a pro or be a pro before they get to the NBA draft. And we saw the lowest NBA draft turnout in terms of folks entering the draft ever this past year, right? So do you think this is going to help keep more kids in college, which would then, to your point, help keep more talent in
I mean,
basketball, college
it'll
basketball?
keep more kids in college, but at the same time, winning, as you know, I mean, if you think about the NBA, everybody is working with the same amount of money, and we only got 3 teams that are really good every year. You know what I mean? So it's not, no matter how much money you have to spend, the good thing about the NCAA and the way they've set this up is that there's no floor. Right. So you don't have to necessarily spend. And there are some programs out there that can build from within. They can put together a good group. The group gets hot. And before you know, depending on which sport it is, basketball or football, they go on a little bit of a run and they win. But the bottom line is that there just isn't enough players. I mean, there isn't enough players. There isn't enough good coaches. There isn't enough facilities. There just isn't enough, regardless of how much money. And even if they wanted to allocate those funds, some of these schools have to prostitute themselves to make the money. They got to go and get beat by other really good teams. But the usual suspects will remain the usual suspects. Georgia will be good on the football side. Texas will be better this year on the football. Alabama will be in the mix. It's basically the same schools that are going to continue to get the players.
Well, that's my concern because I feel like, in the basketball side, we talk about a lot of teams who come out of nowhere, right? Who didn't have the money or the funding or the five-star athletes, but they make it to the Elite Eight, the Sweet 16 or whatever, right? Like, oh, they came out of nowhere, right? A lot of people were surprised that St. John's was a good team last year, but you were saying that they had players there that were older and, were able to compete, right? But we know in college last year, a team like Auburn, who the average age was older than OKC, who won a championship, right? So it's like, to your point, I guess I'm curious to see, like, well, certain juggernaut leagues like SEC and different divisions, are they going to stay top because they do have more money?
Yes, they will.
And so we're gonna keep it going. So that's why I'm curious to know these schools who aren't in those big leagues, they're gonna I guess they're gonna stay there, which is kind of like why,
Yeah, I don't really see much changing, Nelly. I think
Okay.
so Florida won the national championship last year. Florida has won national championships before. They won 2 back-to-back. Florida is a stronghold for athletes, athleticism, and all the rest of that kind of stuff. They're a stronghold for that. If you think about it from that perspective, also think about this. How many, like San Diego State made it to the national championship a couple years ago, and that was really dope, right? They play UConn, who beat the hell out of them. You know what I mean? And then the next year, UConn goes back and wins again. And UConn, again, is a stronghold for basketball. You know what I mean? They don't have, and they don't even necessarily have the same amount of money to spend as everybody else, but they're still a stronghold. Every once in a
program, essentially. The program.
Yeah, it's just like they have a stronghold on basketball. That program is strong enough to the point where guys are going to want, and then demographically, you also got to look at that too. Like, I don't know that a school in the middle of, like, on your way to the West Coast, like the Dakotas or any one of those kind of schools, Idaho, yeah, they'll be good in basketball, but but kids are not necessarily signing up to go to those places. They're signing up to go to some of the other schools that were already really good. Exactly. You know what I mean? And no matter how much money you spend, that does not mean, again, that you're gonna win and that you're gonna get some of the best players in the country, because it's too important for Kentucky and Duke and Kansas to be successple, although Kansas has been down a little bit.
Bloods.
Never say never. Yeah, exactly. Never say never, but the reality is that if I could be so honest, schools were already cheating.
I was going to ask you, I'm like, is this more like this has been happening and now it's going to be legalized on paper?
That's all that's going to be happening. I mean, like, these kids are already getting money. You know what I mean? So it's not like it. And this is one of the reasons that it's even happening. There was some speculation around Zion getting money when he was at Duke. And there was some speculation around some cheating that was going on at Kansas. All of these speculations could ruin college basketball. So the NCAA does what it does best. It opened up the floodgates and thereby insulating itself from any scrutiny that they may have gotten had they not.
You know what? Fair point. Thank you so much for breaking that down, because I was really curious. And for those who any other questions around NIL and, if you are a fan of a certain college or school in basketball, check out what they can afford. That will manage your expectations a little bit, but you never know, right? There's players who get better, and sometimes, like Rutgers, you get all the talent, all the draft prospects, but still be bad.
Yeah.
Like last season. But speaking of NIL top earners, we're moving now for the culture, okay? And we highlight top individuals that are doing amazing things for the culture. And this athlete, she actually was a top NIL earner when she was going to LSU. Let's talk about Miss Angel Reese. So Angel Reese, y'all, incredible, in my opinion, athlete. I think she has been improving, working on her craft. She has her podcast game going on. Lisa Leslie has been going through her game, giving her like actual tips and really helping her understand, her position and how to improve. And I love seeing older players really pour into the younger athletes, because I feel like the Lisa Leslies and those guys of the past have so much rich culture and information and data that I think some of the current WNBA players do not have, right? And so I think it's important that they're part of it to kind of teach them how to, walk in their shoes. But Angel Reese, Ren, has been doing some amazing things in your, fellow Chicago land. So she's also been a part of some type of, RG3 has been a clown, and he has had her name in his tweets for some reason. I do not know why, but I know Shaq threatened him a little bit. Someone threatened him a little bit, saying to keep her name out of his mouth. So I'm assuming we're not going to hear any more, mentioning her, ever again.
I hope not.
But Angel Reese partnered with Cash App, and she helped renovate a basketball court in Oakwood Beach, which is in the South Side Chicago neighborhood. This court was refurbished in partnership with Project Backboard and designed to empower women and girls through sport. This initiative is part of a large effort not only to provide resources and opportunities for young women in the community. So I love that she's doing that. She also ran, and I'll pass the mic to you right after to give us your comments. Her and Magic Johnson, who was actually a billionaire, by the way, they actually launched a financial literacy program for high school seniors in Baltimore, Maryland, which is where she is from as well. This is to empower others to understand, a thriving understanding on financial literacy, which I think I think we spoke about this growing up. A lot of us did not have that. Like we didn't know what stocks were and savings account, Our parents live from paycheck to paycheck. So I think, for kids that are growing up in a more struggling household, it's important for them to understand this so they can become earners, right? And become millionaires, right? Like billionaire Magic Johnson, of course. And I think Angel Reese, with what she's doing now, man, she can become really, really wealthy, right? If she does invest and do things that I think that she's doing today. So, Rand, please give me your thoughts on Angel Reese for the culture. Big up to you, Angel.
Hmm.
But your thoughts on the stuff she's doing off the court, like investing in, not financial intellect, but of course, contributing to women's basketball in Chicago.
Well, I think it's always a positive, man. I think that the financial literacy part of it is way more important than the basketball part to me. And I think that there is so much that can be learned and so many dreams that can be had without using basketball, just by using your brain. You don't know, so you don't always have to use brawn. As far as to her building basketball courts, I think that's dope. You know what I mean? To give back and to work with the city and all the rest of that kind of stuff to build these things, man, to give and invest in the city. I think it's going to solidify her as one of us, right? When it comes to the city of Chicago. And I think that's really dope. Working with Magic Johnson on his literacy project, I think is always helpful, man, for everybody. And again, like if she wants to, if this is her life's passion, go for it, man. You know what I mean? If you feel like you want to help young women out or help young people out, whatever the case may be, go for it. Um, she's a good person. You know what I mean? You could tell that she's a good person, but she's from Baltimore and she doesn't hide that, right? And I respect that. You know what I mean? And I think that oftentimes when people of color have things to say, they end up having to whitewash themselves in order to say it. It's refreshing, although sometimes she can be a bit much on her social media platforms for me. Um, she's always got a gaze about her and a smile on her face in most situations. And, again, she's a big woman, 6'3" or something like that, man. She has to go through this world in a very different way. And she does it with a lot of sexiness and class and dignity. And again, I'm super proud of what she has been. Not that she needs my pride at all, but I think what she's doing is just really, really incredible in junction with her career, being a very, very good basketball player.
Yeah, you know what? I love that you said that because something about, I think her personality is why I became a fan of hers. Like when I played basketball, I talked a lot on the court, but I wasn't like my talking was more competitiveness. And
Hmm.
whatever I said, like clearly it wasn't personal, it was more on the court. But I think she shows a different side, which kind of reminds me of when Serena was coming up. When Serena was coming out, she was not the typical like tennis player. And that's a big thing to race and her size and her shape, right? She was thick. She had hips. She wasn't a typical like slim, tender, like, Venus body type was more tennis like, but Serena was like, she was thick, she was strong. And I feel like Angel, her personality, a lot of like, think about this, right? How many basketball players were trending not because of their game, but because of like, I don't know, like what she told them to play on the court. You know what I'm saying? Like she talks to a lot of players and they know it and they're friends and they laugh about it afterwards. And I think that's something that's refreshing for me because I think sometimes a lot of male viewership aren't comfortable with seeing women talk trash and have like that talk. But this year in the we're seeing more of it. And I don't think it's more like, oh, we're seeing it. I think it's now being reported on more. And I think it's because of her. Like she's been trending because of her trash talking. And now it's like, oh, let's show, JC Sheldon do this and your girl Sophie Cunningham. Let's show everyone that's like that. And I think it created a full view of, hey, not just the black athletes are behaving this way, guys. It's any athlete. These
Right.
are women that they're competing at the highest level of basketball in the country. And so I think it's fantastic. I can't wait till Angel comes to Toronto because we're going to have a WNBA team next summer. Okay.
All right.
So I can't wait till she comes up because that's going to be great just for having her come to Toronto. I've never seen her in person before. So I will be at that game.
That's what's up.
But, I
Hopefully they'll
think,
be better than the Raptors, but go ahead though.
oh gosh, yeah, they better be. No, but I, I really agree that her for the culture is not just what she's doing off the court, but her movement. And I think the fact that she's the most followed WNBA player in the league, more than Caitlin Clark, more than any other player, that's a big deal, right? Yes, she's sexy. Yes, she's sassy, but she's also feminine. And I
Right.
think it shows a lot of players because I feel like for me growing up, I thought I had to be a little bit more, tomboyish and whatever to be a good athlete because that's only what I saw, right? Most tomboys, most more of a masculine type energy was good in sports. But like tennis, a lot of girls there are girly, but they're amazing athletes. And I think in basketball, we don't have that same energy. So I like all my girly girls who are feminine, who like to look, like even Asia Wilson, want to put their
Right.
makeup on, get their hair done, and they have their feminine side on the court, which I think is refreshing for those who are like me, who are feminine, but because we're feminine, people don't take us seriously. So
Right.
I think she's showing a different side, which I adore. And she's for the culture. Congrats, Angel Reese, on the court in Chicago. I hope more girls are playing basketball in Chicago, right? I know we have a couple of Chicago players in the W, but I hope it does inspire more. And
Mhm.
Chicago Sky, we know that franchise team's doing bad, but Angel's a big piece of the reason why, because she's out right now. But hopefully they can get a guard, something around her. But if she could win a championship run in Chicago, I think she can really be a huge, huge icon, you know what I'm saying, in your city, to be honest, if she can bring them a championship like Candace Parker did.
Well, man, I agree. I think that, winning solves a lot of problems. So, I think the biggest thing for her though is just to remain herself. I think she's a Hall of Fame player in the making, and she rebounds it at a really, really high clip. And
Me
she
bounds.
has a really long arms. She's really active in passing lanes, man. I mean, she's a really, really special talent. Of course, there's the things that she could work on. But the things that she can work on, they're just things that she can work on. As long as you play to your strengths, I think you'll be fine. I mean, she's not a great shooter of the basketball, but she makes plays. And people always want you to be perfect, and you don't have to be. What you have to be is just who you are, and who she is good enough to get 15 rebounds, freaking, I don't know, 15 times in a row, something that most people cannot do, men or women. You know what I mean? So shout out to her.
Shout out to you, Angel. And she's also like had the most double doubles, I think, right now. Like
Mhm.
her double double, I think, record that she had in the WNBA. It's crazy. Like she had 42 right now, which is tied with the two-time MVP Elena Della Don
It's crazy.
for 33rd on the all-time list. She had 15 in a row, and I mean 42 in her second season.
Yeah,
So
she's well on her way. She's well
well
on her
on her
way.
way, to your point. But yeah, big up to you, Angel Reese, and that's why you're for the culture.
That's so.
So y'all, our last segment, okay? That's absurd, Ren. This absurd topic. I'm sure we all know about Shedeur Sanders. We all know who he is. He's the son of Deion Sanders. Okay, let's get out the way. The reason why we have an absurd topic is not just about, the prank callers and the fact that a coach in the NFL, I don't know how you leak information, but defensive coordinator of Atlanta Falcons, he got fined and the team got fined because for some reason his pick-me-dem
Yeah.
got Shedeur Sanders' number and did a prank call during the draft, which I think is so tactless. Like that is just disgusting. So they apologize, whatever. Yeah, I'm sure he forgives you, but we're not gonna forget, okay? But I want to say this: a lot of controversy ran. He was drafted very late. Well, people expect him to be drafted second round, third round. It was the fourth, right? He's now in a QB battle.
I think it was the fifth.
Sorry, fifth round. Thank you for the correction. He drafted in the fifth round, and he is now QB4, right? I mean, it makes sense. If you're drafted in the fifth round, typically you're not going to be QB1. But this is what I find interesting, Ren. They have Joe Flacco right now as the starter, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, who drafted before him in the same draft, Shedeur Sanders. So they signed QB Tyler Huntler, which, again, that's a fifth quarterback, okay? First of all, I want your comments on this absurdity of, because, you were involved in a draft situation, and I think people understand how much anxiety and pressure and nerves you are going through when you're in a draft. Like, that is such a emotional, like, roller coaster. And I think people understand what these young athletes are going through, and to get a prank call, like, what's the absurd of that? And of course, give us your thoughts on the whole Cleveland quarterback situation and them hiring a fifth quarterback. You got it,
Man, well, here's the skinny for me. All right, no pun intended. Shout out to my man. I don't think that they really want Shador as the quarterback of that team. I just don't think that, regardless of what we think and what we feel, I don't think that they feel as though he's good enough or they want him on the team. Just doesn't seem that way to me. Now, if he plays perfectly, does everything right and all the rest of that kind of stuff, well, then maybe it works out. But I honestly believe that Cleveland is going to draft a quarterback this upcoming season, or after this upcoming season, and that quarterback is probably going to be, well, one of those quarterbacks is, of course, Arch Manning, and there's going to be a sweepstakes to be bad in order to get him. And I think that Cleveland is okay with being bad for another season in order to bring him in and go out. Or one of the other quarterbacks. It's about 5 of them that are good. I've heard of people having 7 on their boards and things of that nature. So I honestly believe that no matter what he does, I just don't believe that they necessarily care. You know what I mean, about how good he is or how good he isn't. I don't believe that if they're bringing in another quarterback into the quarterback room, they got 5 freaking quarterbacks, man. 5. Like, what can you possibly do? Now, Shedeur making it to the NFL and being good was already a long shot. It's a long shot for any quarterback. It's not perfect. There's very few guys that it's like, okay, man, yeah, this is going to absolutely work. Like, there's no chance of this failing. Yeah, okay, I guess, but the fact remains is that quarterback play has been down in the NFL for the last couple of seasons. We've been seeing more of them
Very
get
true.
sacked, and we've seen more of them get, drafted, and very few of these injuries, a lot of injuries, a lot of mobile quarterbacks being drafted that don't necessarily have an understanding of how to deliver the football downfield. I mean, there's a lot of that going on. So, he was really good at Colorado. But all of the quarterbacks, for the most part, were good in college, with the exception of a few who were just physical freaks, right?
Mhm.
But hopefully, man, I mean, he lands on his feet. I don't think that Cleveland is going to be the place where he has success. I think that if he can show well, or show that he's good, and somebody else give him an opportunity, I think that will be more in line with how he lands in the NFL. But ultimately, I just don't think that the league is really fooling with him. I don't think that the teams are really, I mean, he went in the 5th round. That's a clear indicator that nobody really wanted him on their team. And it was you could say it's his arrogance, you could say it's his dad's arrogance, you could say a lot of things, but the fact remains that nobody wants to deal with it. And if that's the case, what can you do? You can only throw your hands up and just say, hey, kid is already rich, he's made a lot of money, and if they don't want to give him an opportunity, well, just kind of is what it is. But I just don't see Cleveland being the place that he has success, no matter what he does when he plays. Yeah.
So I guess by this episode comes out, we're gonna see how he performs. But I mean, at the end of the day, it is hard for any quarterback to make it. There's only a certain amount of teams, right, in the NFL, and only a certain amount of starting positions. And we've seen
Right.
guys that look great in college and fumbled in NFL, right? Like the
Exactly.
NBA. That job description is very unique, very specific, and every team requires something different from you. And
Right.
coach, right? Some
Right.
coaches, my Sean Payton didn't want Russ. Hey, Russ, thanks for your time. I didn't
Right.
draft you, so I don't want you on my team. Like, some coaches are very specific on the type of QBs they want to work with, right? So it
Right.
is a very, like, biased, subjective position, right? Like,
Right.
you have to be specific for that head coach and offensive OC to, like, want to work with you.
Right.
So I'm not going to push back on your thoughts on him with Cleveland. What's your thoughts on just the whole, what's your thoughts on when you think Shador got that phone call, right? And I know he was very graceful and said, "Hey guys," like he took out to the chin, stuff like that. I want folks to understand like the audacity of those folks calling on a draft. Like, where would you put that in terms of just like the most absurd thing you've heard before? Like someone actually prank calling. Is that common? Maybe like for us who don't know. Is
No,
that
that's not. That's certainly something that is very uncommon, and the first time I've ever heard of anything like that.
okay?
Listen, I think the prank call came because he was Shador, right? I think that was the prank call just because he was Shador. I don't, and again, there's a racial component there, there's a jealousy component there, there is a class component there. All of these things play a part in that happening to him. But also, he and his dad have also played it up, right? They've done things very differently than anybody else. I mean,
Yeah.
his college career was very different from any other college athlete, based on the amount of money that he made via NIL, based on playing for his dad and the movements that they've made and the commercials and so on and so forth. Like, they have maximized themselves. So with that balance inside of the love that you get is the hate that you get. There's going to be a balancing act that happens, right? And I don't, I don't want to go too far into this. I think that yeah, you can consider it a hate crime one way or the other, um, but but at the same time, the dad has to do a better job of protecting that information and not letting his son and understanding who his son is. You would have to have known that your son would do some goofy stuff like this. You would have had to known that, and you should have kept this away from your son, from phone numbers and things. That's insane to have numbers around so that your child could get a hold of those and be calling people on draft day. Oh, just a very, very bad look, and he should have lost his job. You know what I mean? More
Well,
than anything else.
so that's what I was gonna say. So like the NFL fined the team 250,000. So the Falcons got that fine, and Jeff Albrecht, the father, he was fined only 100,000. I feel like that should have been switched around.
Well, I mean, if I'm the team, I'm gonna levy that onto him. I mean, he'll be working
Yeah,
for free this year. You know what I mean? So
it's a free salary.
yeah.
Hey,
I mean, it is what it is. I mean, like we didn't do that. You did that. So I don't know why we will be getting fined. We getting fined more than you is kind of insane. But
but also like, isn't that like whatever you sign a contract with any company or business, right? Like non-disclosure information, anything that's confidential, to your point, can um go into termination.
absolutely. I mean, I mean, again, like, I don't want to make it bigger than what it is, right? You know what I mean? I'm trying to keep it in perspective. A kid gets a hold of a phone number that he shouldn't have on draft day, calls a kid, records himself. You know what I mean? There needs to be some sort of, something that happens. But it'd be different if Atlanta turned around and drafted him, though. You know what I'm saying? It'd been different had they turned around and used the draft pick just because to bring him in. Now, I don't know if he would have played in front of Michael Penix, but bottom line is that for that to happen, it just didn't make sense for that to be the case. You know what I mean? Like I just felt it like to be just very nasty work by the kid, and that is not a little kid either. That kid, I
He wasn't a
believe,
kid, like I'm saying, like he was grown enough to know that what he was doing was illegal.
exactly, and saddening and could hurt his dad's career. That is going to follow his dad forever. But
Forever.
that'll also be an experience that Sanders family will lean on as something that was very hurtful to them. You know what I mean? And I think I think it's sad because some of these wounds don't heal. You know what I mean? But Shedeur seems to say all the right things and do all the right things, but that is a very, very prideful family. And that's a
Mhm.
family that understands that some of the things that happens to them are based on race, prejudice, and all the rest of that. Deion Sanders, in my opinion, is a lot like Muhammad Ali in his gloating of himself and how he views himself and how he believes himself to be a beautiful person. And if he feels that way, then rightfully so. Culture, the way that we're set up here in the American culture is that you have to, especially when you of color, you have to dumb yourself down in order to be accepted by others. But the reality is that the money that you're making, you're part of somebody else's entity that has done this for years. So you know what I mean. You're part of the NFL that has had racial issues, prejudice issues, insensitive nature when it comes to black and brown folk. And again, had this been Here's the thing, Nelly. Had this been reversed and Dion was the coach, the dad, and Shador called that kid who was supposed to be, in the same situation as Shador, I believe that Dion would have been fired. You see what I'm saying? If you reverse those roles. And again, I just feel like that's the divide that we still have today in mainstream sport.
You're right. You're right. And to close this off, guys, for those who don't know the situation, Jeff Albrecht, his son is 21. So he's not like 13-year-old, like brain wasn't fully developed. His brain is fully developed. He knew what the hell he was doing. And how he got the phone number, Ren, was his dad had his iPad open. Like, come on, bro.
Yeah. Yeah.
Left
How
your
crazy
iPad
is that?
open. I
I
don't
mean,
understand.
you should be able to keep your iPad open around your family without them going through looking at people's phone numbers. But maybe not. You know what I'm saying? Like maybe not in that house. You know what I'm saying?
Not in
Like,
that
and
house.
I gotta believe that this isn't the first time that kid pulls some BS like this. I gotta believe he didn't wake up today and just become this. You would have had to have known, okay.
Or maybe he's always been a prank. Some people are just prankers, right? And it's cute. But I just think he picked the wrong one. And I mean, hey, to your point, I agree with everything you said. I totally agree with it. I think the privilege, and I think Atlanta, Falcons really value Jeff. because a coach, and they said it won't impact his job, even though a lot of fans call for him to be resigned,
Mhm.
even suspended, something, y'all. Like, it's just, to me, it was so unserious what NFL did. And I think they have to put stronger policies. The NFLPA, I know that's a hot mess right now, but they hired someone, but put stronger policies on protecting psychology of players. I just think sometimes, we just saw the terrible shooting in New York. I think a lot of times the mental health of athletes are not taken seriously enough for me, Rand. And that's why I always talk about, like, what emotional impact could that have caused in Shedeur? What if he wasn't signed by the
Right.
Cleveland Browns because that impacted his embarrassment? What if he wasn't what if he wasn't a Deion Sanders' son, didn't have the confidence to pursue that? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, some kids that could have really made them become the opposite end. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I
Totally.
think as fans and people who love sports, we have to consider sometimes the mental health of our athletes. They're not just people with no emotions and minds and brain. And these guys have real emotions, real feelings, pride, ego, like all of us do, right? I want us to
Right.
sometimes don't treat these guys like, oh, they won't care. No, what if he did care?
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Totally.
that's why I just think we just have to be very mindful of how we treat athletes, how we speak to them and of them, right? My rule of thumb is this: if you can't say it to their face, don't say it at all.
Just don't say it at all. You know what I'm saying?
Don't
Right.
say it at all. Okay. But yeah, y'all, that's our segment. So, guys, thank you for listening to Good Rookies. As you know, Rand, we do shout outs.
Yeah.
And, I want, first of all, please plug in your amazing show you do right now. Right now, it's the summer holidays, but I know when football and basketball comes up again, it's going to be a rockin' space. But please plug in what you've been doing every morning or every other morning for now.
Yeah, so we're gonna go back to every day, and now that we have football, basketball will be starting up here in October or whatever. But we do the Run Daily on X Spaces. You can find me on there as well. You can look me up by name, Randy Holcomb, or you can find my handle. What is my handle on there? It is
Alfred's house.
Alfred's House. You know what I'm saying? My middle name. So
You're welcome.
that being
What's my handle on there, Nelly? I forgot what my social media account is.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, yeah, you can find me on there. And again, that's a platform that we use to push the business that is a sporting goods business, which is the Run Sports, where we supply teams, outfit teams, all of the team sports. We supply them with everything they need, from uniforms, spirit wear, on-field things, renovating basketball gyms and sporting fields and all the rest of that kind of stuff. We do everything in that regard. So anything that you need in that space, we are the people to call. So, and we use that show to promote that while being an asset to the sports world by giving information, sharing things, and all the rest of that kind of jazz. So tune in with us every morning between 9 Eastern and
No, it's 10 Eastern to 12.
10 Eastern. I'm sorry, 10
Eastern to 12 Eastern.
Okay,
I'll do your plug. Guys, it's 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., okay, on Eastern time zone. Central time is 9 to 11, okay? And it's called the Run Daily.
Hey, the way you leaned up on that mic like that is crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I'm
took
just
over
saying,
my
you're
flow.
struggling.
Yeah. I was
What?
like,
Nelly, what's my social media handle? Oh, shit. What time
Central
is it
time.
recording
I'm
there?
trying to figure out which time
Oh,
I'm
my
going
God.
to give them, the East Coast time or the West Coast time.
But for sure, guys, check out the Run Sports, sporting goods, anything you think of. Please inquire, reference, refer, anything. You know what I'm saying? So it's a really cool sporting goods company. And yeah, definitely want to make sure that we push it out there. And the Run Daily, right? So big up to you, Red. Big up to
Appreciate you.
My shout out, of course, is to the Run Daily, the Run Sports, Alfred's House, all of that. I also want to pick up Mboko. She's a tennis player who is Congolese background. Okay, she's only 18 years old. She's the youngest Canadian player to ever make it to a Masters finals, which she is competing against my girl Naomi Osaka. Right now, we're recording and it's tied up, Ran. 1 match to 1 match.
Okay, that's
And
what's up.
Mboko's up right now in the 3rd round. So we're about to go watch that, y'all. But until then, big up to Victoria Mboka, Naomi Osaka, but really want to big up the young Canadian phenom, Victoria Mboko. Remember who she is, because you will see her in other Masters doing her thing. She beat Coco Gauff. Like, she's going to be a problem. For sure. And you know, Ran, Congolese athletes, man, them in tennis, she's tall, she got long arms, she's strong. You already know what it is. So she's going to be a problem.
Yep,
She's gonna be a
yeah,
problem.
that's a fact.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. So thanks again. Please follow Good Rookies on all social media platforms. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We're in all podcast platforms. They can listen. They can watch. Whatever they want, be there. You understand? And on that note, Rand, we out.
All right.
Peace.